Guys, I'm so excited to introduce to you my good friend, Keri Shull. She is absolutely amazing and drop dead gorgeous all in one. So, Keri, tell people a little bit about you and talk about your progression as you've gone through real estate.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. And everybody, my name is Keri. I am in the Washington, D.C. market. And let's see, I'm going to start you at the beginning. I started my career in new home sales, transitioned into selling condos. And in 2008, best timing, right? I decided to get into the resale side of things. In 2010, I started growing a team. And I went from hiring my first assistant and doing 21 transactions in 2010 to doing 365 only 5 years later. So had a pretty rapid growth. Last year, we did close to 700 transactions. I have a pretty big team now. And so one of the things that I feel like really separates us and what I'm excited to talk about today is how we have changed the way we do business based on my personal weakness, which is making the follow-up phone calls. So how we leverage ISAs in our business.
Awesome. So let's talk about that. Talk about how to convert those leads with your ISA. Talk about your ISA team. How big are they, and how does the structure work? Like, it's very detailed from the time like that the lead comes in, who answers it, and all of that.
Sure. Well, to take you back, when I first got started, I had a real estate coach that basically told me, listen, Keri, the ISA job, the inside sales agent job, the one who answers the phone when the lead comes in, regardless of the lead source, that is the job that you personally are going to have to keep the longest to be successful as a real estate agent. For me, that was like acid on my soul. I'm like, no, that is not the job I want to keep. Like, I want to do other things. That's the worst job for me, right? And so I ended up hiring 3 inside sales agents at once because I talked to a lot of other people who had tried to do it, and they said, listen, you know, you're going to fail a lot before you succeed. And so I knew I wouldn't stay in the business if I didn't crack the code on that and figure it out. To fast forward to today, I have 7 full-time ISAs. I do not outsource my ISAs. A lot of people ask that, are they in the office? I have one ISA that lives in Texas. But all of my ISAs, they are leaders on my team. So when you think about the big picture, and then I'll get into the details, I believe that those ISAs, when I started, there was this view where the buyer's agents and the listing agents felt like they were their assistants. I don't think that works. And so I flipped the power dynamic and said, well, what if I change that power dynamic? And instead of having it be the listing agent or the buyer's agent feeling like the ISA is an assistant, they have the hardest job, right? At least I think so. I think being on the phone and converting appointments and getting the people to actually meet with you is a really hard piece of the equation that's critical, no matter what lead generation technique you're using, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I said, well, I'm going to give the ISAs all the power so they have the ability to cut off a listing agent if their notes aren't in the system. They have the ability to cut them off if they feel that they're not doing a good enough job with the conversion. They are able to then just really try and tailor the appointments they're booking to the right person to then generate money and put it in their pocket. So that's how we structured it once I realized that there was a flaw in how I viewed most people were doing it. Since the time that we made those adjustments, it's now how we can convert the majority of our leads, right? So when a lead comes in, we have something we call a money phone. So the lead automatically goes to the money phone, and it's a shift system. So each ISA has a certain amount of time that they're spending on the money phone. And as they get better and better, they have more ownership of that, right? And they're converting the leads when they come in. And then a huge part of our equation is that we're really aggressive with the follow-up. So I talk to a lot of agents, especially young agents today, that say to me, oh, well, I don't like the phone, and so I only follow up via text, right? And I'm like, amazing. I would love to compete with you because I will crush you, right? Like people, if you catch them at the right time on the phone, they're grateful for the call and they appreciate it. So we have converted a ton of our business that way over time, and we'll continue to forever.
So how many transactions did you do last year?
So we did just under 700 transactions.
Okay, and how many agents do you have?
Great question. So last year we were probably around the 40 average. We have a pretty big team though. So we have almost equal support staff to agents.
Gotcha. And so how many follow-ups do you do with each person? Like, walk us through what that looks like as detailed as possible. Like, day one is this, we tried 3 times day one, however many times you do per day.
Sure. So the lead comes in and we will try and call the lead twice the first day. And then we call them once a day for the next 7 days. Then we transition it and it'll be once a week. Then we transition it and it'll be once a month. Now, a lot of people tell you at some point they stop calling. We don't. And interestingly enough, if people tell us like, Keri, F off, I used to think, okay, let's move that lead to dead. But what I realized is it all depends on the day that they're having. So even if they tell us to F off, unless they tell us never call me again, we don't take them out of the system and we convert a lot of those leads down the road because their motivation changes. What's going on in their world changes. And so just because you're catching someone at a bad day does not mean you should give up.
I love that. How much do your ISAs get paid, and are your ISAs licensed?
Our ISAs are definitely licensed because they do get a portion of the commission. So that's an important part of how we do it. Most of them, when they come into our system, are not licensed though. So you might get them out of selling cars or doing some other inside sales role. They might not have real estate experience, right? So that's important to understand. We pay them a base salary. And one of the interesting things that we've learned over time, Chantel, is that the most talented salespeople, they understand it's going to take a little time to develop a pipeline, right? But because it takes a while for their income to scale, we pay $24,000. That's not enough for someone in our area to live. So what we started doing is $1,000 supplemental bonus, right? And we scale that back. So it's $1,000 extra for 3 months, then it transitions to 500. And we do that so that by the time their pipeline kicks in, our ISAs can make a tremendous amount of money, right? We want to make sure that they're making 75, 85, 100 plus. And so we want them they're going to come in and feel like, okay, I've got to produce to start making enough money to have this be worth it. They get paid 5% of the commission. So they get their base, they get their 5%. As their base starts to go down, their commission starts to go up. And then the cycle just builds on itself. What we've seen is that the ISAs that stay, every year it gets easier, right? Because they already have a pipeline of people who know them that have said, hey, call me back in 6 months. Hey, call me back in a year. And so what I would say to the team leaders or agents out there watching this, if you're somebody who struggles to make the calls, you're good at generating the leads, you might be where I was, right? You might be in this position where if you're honest with yourself, regardless of how many people tell you you need to make the calls, you're just not going to do it. So you have to then figure out what are your weaknesses, and you might be watching this today, right? Because you want another strategy to generate leads. My guess is you're already generating leads and you're trying to figure out other pillars and ways to generate leads. But if you don't solve the conversion problem, all of it is for nothing.
That is so good, because this is the thing, like one of the things that gets on my nerves with agents is like they're constantly, that's why I'm so glad today we're just talking about conversion, because it's like they literally are just like, I want to get more, I want to get more, I want to get more, and they're not focused on how to convert them. And the thing is, they don't realize is that most of our internet leads are 6 to 8 months out, most of them 8 months. So that means the time you get it, and then what they do is they get it and then they go, oh, they're 8 months out, and so then they just never call them again, and then the cost per lead is so astronomical. It's worth it to work. Either if you don't have the money to hire ISA, then work at a company or a team that offers an ISA, or hire your own ISA.
Yeah.
If you're not going to make the calls, if you're not going to do it, someone's got to do it.
Well, and you're just giving up money, right? Because it's like, oh, but I can't afford it. Well, you can't afford not to do it. Let's be real. You have money sitting there just fading through that's not being converted right now, and you've already spent money generating the lead. So at least maximize your opportunity. It's going to cost you a lot less than the money you're going to miss out on if you don't do it.
Now, do you know your numbers? And if you don't, it's not a big deal because we hold a lot of numbers in our head, right? But can you give us kind of a roundabout, like, with the ISA, like, okay, let's say we get in 1,000 leads. Out of those 1,000 leads, how many of them are converting, or how many are getting into buyer broker or listing? Do you know any of those numbers off your head, off the top? Okay,
Absolutely.
great.
So I'll do my best to answer you because it's always changing. But here's
Right.
what I will say. Right now, if we have 100 leads, what we've found is only one or two of those leads is a right now buyer or seller. Out of 100 leads, one or two are right now. But there's another 2 to 3 leads in that bucket that will buy or sell over the next few years, not months, years.
Okay, I want you to repeat that because that is a really good nugget. So I want you to kind of repeat what you said.
Sure. So if we take 100 leads, and I'm going to say 100 internet leads, right? Because internet leads, and there's different types and there's different
Right.
based on the type, but in general, there's only one or two of those leads that are right now buyers. Okay. Then there's an additional 2 to 3 that will buy or sell, but they're not going to buy or sell right now. It's not going to be next month. It's going to be over the next 2 to 3 years. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So the biggest issue that I have, right, for a brand new agent, and I coach agents all the time that say this, well, I tried Zillow and it didn't work. I'm like, oh, really? How long did you try it? 6 months. Like, okay. How many times did you call? Like when you start dissecting how they handled it, they were missing the 1 to 2 that were right now people because they weren't as aggressive as everyone else. They were calling 1 time, 2 times, and other people were calling faster than they were. And so they were just missing the window altogether. Then they're missing the window on the people who are longer term because they've already given up on the leads. So a lot of real estate agents out there feel like internet leads don't work. The reality is they work. It's just, do you work them?
Yeah. Now, how many incoming leads do you have per month? And how many appointments are the inside sales agents setting per month?
That's a good question. And so it really varies depending on the time of month. We have a couple thousand leads a month that are coming in consistently, and we're always booking at least 100 appointments per week. So a couple hundred appointments per month is very consistent for us. And we continue, there's dials. So if we decide, okay, we're heading into the spring market, we want to dial it up, we might increase that. And then the market is increasing and the amount of money that we're spending is increasing at the same time. So it's always varying.
Awesome. And do you know about what you're paying per call? Like, so go back to how many leads do you have coming per month and how much are you spending on marketing so we can figure out your cost per lead?
Yeah, totally. It dramatically depends on the source. So I did an analysis recently to figure out the cost per lead on a Zillow lead, and we still pay for Zillow leads. Okay. So our cost per lead on a Zillow lead was $119. $119. However,
that's actually cheap. And I mean, for your area, that's really not that bad. I mean, our Zillow leads, it's so crazy because it really ebbs and flows. So from month to month, we could have 1 month. I know, like in a slower month, let's say it's a slow month, we could be paying $200 for a Zillow lead. And then another month, if you calculate it by month and not by year, we might be paying $80. So I guess that kind of rounds it out, but it really varies that much. It could be $80 per lead for Zillow or 150, and it just all depends on the different zip codes. It's really
so interesting. And we did a blended average, so we should do a monthly average and then look at when to really dial it up.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting point. One of the things that we do really well, we're really good at generating seller leads. And so in the olden days, I found that my seller leads were a lot more expensive than my buyer leads, which is what most agents find.
Right.
But one of the things that changed for us, we got the opportunity to meet with Keri V, and he talked to us a lot about changing our structure and being more like a digital agency in-house. So because of that, we have someone that's responsible for our digital marketing. We have funnels, we have a graphic designer, we have copywriters, right? So how we have our structure built out is very, very different. That's enabled us to get our seller cost per lead down, sometimes to only $8 to $10 per lead.
Wow, that is amazing.
Crazy, right? And it's seller leads. So, I used to pay 3 to 4 times as much in the beginning of my career for a seller lead as I would pay for a buyer lead.
Mm-hmm.
Now we've really been able to start controlling that and generating more seller leads. So
That's awesome, because I'm doing a lot with that too. I've actually opened up my own marketing company called Simpronto, and that's what we're doing. We are really focusing on like digital marketing and creating funnels and so forth. So describe what your funnels look like to get those seller leads.
Sure. So we have different funnels. I mean, we're always testing different things. One of the things that I'm pretty excited about right now, are you guys doing anything with bots?
Yes, we are.
Awesome. So one of my favorite seller campaigns, we actually have a bot. And so imagine that you type in, what is my home worth, Arlington, Virginia. Okay. It'll say, oh, I'd love to help you with that. Right. It'll start typing to them and inside Messenger. Right. So it will actually take a screenshot of their house and say, hold on, let me take a look at this. And then it'll say, is this your house? And the person's like, yes, it is. Okay, great. Let me take a minute and look for you. And so the entire home valuation process is online.
And what program are you using to do that?
We built it actually.
Okay.
So we take and have that whole conversation with them, and the conversion to an appointment is like easy.
Wow.
So our conversion rate to appointment has gone up just because we've been able to use artificial intelligence to help us, the client, feel like, whoa, they're like talking to me, they get me, they know my house. Like it's a lot easier to convert that lead.
Wow, that's awesome. What else are you doing to get seller leads?
So we have another tool that we use it's the same type of premise. It's an evaluation online. And I've heard a lot of agents say, oh, I used to use evaluations in the past and they don't work. I will tell you.
Well, they have gotten, what happened was when we first started, like I think we were one of the first to bring that into the market. And it's true. I mean, when that first came out, that automation for the house value, it was like, yeah, but then so many people were doing it, the what's your home worth, that I think it did get diluted a little bit. But keep going.
Well, so for me, I find that people still want to know. And so we're generating a ton of leads with that campaign still. So I feel like it got really diluted and then everyone kind of like backed away from it. And we just found the sneaky way back into it. And now it's working really well.
So what does the post look like? Like tell people in general, like what is that exact post that they need to do?
So it's interesting because in the olden days, we used to do something that's like, what is your home worth? And I used to do postcards like that. Like I used to be like, find out what your home is worth online for free, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now we don't do that. Now we have a map and we have all the houses that are kind of on the map, and it says prices in your area are going up. And we target the location that they're in so they see the map of their area. And it works like a charm because they're like, oh, really? I mean, what are prices doing in my area? This is like my backyard. So it's super simple.
That is awesome. I love it. Any other tips for generating those seller leads?
Call them back fast, because if they're online and they're looking, they're probably on other places as well. So I always tell my team, like, if you're not calling them back in under 5 minutes, like you're not even getting your foot in the door, because they don't view you be as professional as other people. Like people in our day and age value responsiveness. So set up your systems so you offer them what they want.
Right. That's awesome. Well, you've been amazing. Tell listeners where they can find you and where they can follow you.
Absolutely. So one of the places you can find me is on Facebook. I'm old school. I love Facebook. Instagram, I'm still learning.
I'm the same exact way. I feel like you're like one and the same. That is so true. I will do Instagram, but I am still in that old school Facebook.
I love Facebook. So my handle is just the Keri Shull, and it's Keri, and my last name is Shull. That's
awesome.
Connected. And Chantel, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed today.
Yes, everyone, I will tell you, for me and you, we've been in the business so long, we've listened to all these different things. And I feel like every person has really brought their A game. Like it's hard for me to like go. Normally when I go listen to these things, I don't really get a lot out of it because it's like, I know that, I know that, I know that. But every person we've had on the summit so far has just brought so much amazing content. And I feel like everyone, I'm like, oh, wow, that's a new idea. So thank you so much for sharing that. And we really appreciate you being on the show.
Absolutely. Talk to you soon, Chantel.
Yep. And you guys stay tuned because we have another episode coming up in just a minute. Bye-bye.